So now for the finale.
Yeah, this is when it gets hot and heavy.
This is the Q&A time. So Dave's agreed, and we had some questions, and he threw all those away. You have questions of your own you want to ask Jane. And so this is just going to be kind of a fun, light, and quick, they're telling me, because we're way over time. When we see 3 red flashes, that means we have another 2 hours. So.
Am I starting?
You're on.
Well, I think.
Do you want me to start?
Oh yeah,
that was my
mediator.
That's right. We just agreed that.
It's forgotten.
Okay, this is to Dave actually first.
Okay.
What were you doing in a bathtub with Jane Goodall?
Yes, you want to know. We did there was a lot of great times we had in Nebraska. That was a bathtub in Nebraska.
It was.
And
Tom Mangelson's bathtub.
It was Tom Mangelson's bathtub. He wasn't in the bath with us when the photo was taken. But it was a lovely visit in Nebraska, and there was again, we were watching these cranes, these incredible. Jane had invited me, watching this pause in the migration of these cranes. They all come together on this one part of the Platte River in Nebraska. It seems endless, it seems impossible. With trains and trucks rolling by, they still come. They've been doing it, as far as thousands of years, as long as we can imagine. They've been coming to this same place, and they're still coming there by the thousands, by the hundreds of thousands, with all the noise and all the trucks and the highways and the trains and all this, and all the prairies gone and all the cornfields are there now, and the river's cutting deeper because all the buffalo are gone, but the cranes still come in. And we went and stayed in Tom's cabin. Tom Mangelson, a wonderful photographer with a big, deep voice. And we camped out there, and we got in the bathtub together, and we had shared dinners, delicious dinners, and we drank whiskey together. It was awesome. It was a life-changing experience. Just a few days, but it'll take a place in my memory for a long time. That's what we were doing in the bathtub.
Well, that's a great lead on to my next question, which is to Jane. What's the most awe-inspiring place you've ever been?
I think I'd have to say it was in Greenland. It was at the foot of this great cliff of ice that goes up to the ice cap across the top of the world. And I was there with an Inuit friend. He calls himself an Eskimo. It's not politically correct, but he doesn't care about that. And he's been chosen by his people to go around the world to tell people that up in the north the ice is melting. And the first time I heard him say this, he was in his national costume, a lot of seal skins and things like that, at the United Nations. And he stood there, he's very small, but he's got this deep voice, and he said, up in the north, the ice is melting. What will it take to melt the ice in the human heart? And where I stood, he was singing, some of the Inuit elders were there, and they told me that where we could see the water coming down off the ice cliff, that 30 years ago no ice ever melted there, not even in the height of summer, and now it's gushing out. This film has just been made, Jane's Journey, that you saw in Nebraska, actually. We did a little show, and I was there because of that film, and the cameraman caught this huge slab of ice dropping down, and the thunderous roar, and it was just beautiful, awe-inspiring, and absolutely terrifying. What about you? What's your most awe-inspiring, magnificent place?
I'm not sure. This is pretty close. I'll just tell a memory of mine that was fantastic, that makes me think that for the moment we're witnesses to a magical planet. I was in southern Africa and there was these impala, antelope, this impala, herding over here, and we were in a car, and then we noticed these wild dogs coming, which are lovely, colorful dogs. Not terribly friendly, I think, but to each other they are, but they're the most effective hunters, I think, from what I understand, in Africa. Whereas most predators get about 8 out of 10. 2 out of 10 of their when they're hunting. That's their success rate. I think it's the opposite. I think it's 8 out of 10, something like that. Well, who knows statistics? But they're very good hunters. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm not as poetic as you, but it takes me a long time to say anything. But they do a dance. I didn't know this, and then my friend was explaining it to me. My friend, as we watched it unfold, they do this playful dance before the wild dogs, before they charge. So there we're watching them, and they're all rolling around and playing in the dirt. Right there, the impala are standing. I guess they didn't notice them. And they're playing, and then all of a sudden the game ends, and they just take off after the impala. And then the impala noticed them, and the impala start running. But there were also these beautiful, tall, I thought they were ladies, these giraffe. And they were off on the one side. And they started running alongside of the whole hunt, but they weren't part of it. They were just watching it. And it was because they were watching, their heads were turned sideways. And they were running like giraffes too, and they were watching this whole thing unfolding. But the thing that was funniest about it is that they were running straight toward us. They weren't seeing us because they were watching us. And it was as if they were smiling. It was so fantastic. And then relatively right before they got to us, suddenly they realized there was an obstacle, and they were all brakes, and then they tried to look as though we hadn't thrown them off or anything. They all sort of walked around and sort of looked indifferent to our presence. And the wild dog didn't get anything, which my friend told me was a rarer sighting than actually seeing them get anything. That was pretty awe-inspiring, but I don't know if that was the greatest moment. It just came to my mind right then, and that's how I operate.
I think it is. Do you want a turn?
Well, I just want to ask a question and get it off of me. But there's a transformation in when you came out of the forest. And I think I know from the film, watching it, but where you were a spokesman for the chimps and for the natural world by that. But then you turned into this tireless, jet-setting spokesman for the planet. You left the forest, and now you travel the world in what seems like non-stop, trying to inspire us all. And where you get the energy, I have no idea, because people say I keep busy on the road, but it's nothing compared to you, and just maybe a little bit of how that transition happened from the forest to the clouds, to the world.
Well, it happened because I flew over the whole, so Gombe's on the edge of Lake Tanganyika, tiny little national park, just 30 square miles. And in the early 90s, I flew over it in a small plane, and I knew there was deforestation out of the park. I had no idea it was almost total. It was a shock. It was just these bare hills. And if anybody hasn't seen this film, Jane's Journey, which shows this horrifying change outside the national park, where once forest was now bare hills. It's being shown on the 27th of this month in 500 cinemas around the country with fathomlive.com. And So I was so shocked, and looking down, it was obvious there were more people living there than the land could support. They couldn't afford to buy food from elsewhere. They were obviously struggling to survive. So how could we even try and protect these famous chimpanzees when the people were in such a terrible situation? So that led to the Take Care program, improving their lives in a holistic way, hoping, and it's worked, that they would eventually would have such improved lives that they could be our partners in conservation. The trees are beginning to grow back. But I'm realizing too that chimpanzees across Africa were decreasing in numbers, forests were going, chimpanzees were being caught in snares, they were being hunted for food in the live animal trade, and traveling around talking about this and realizing the terrible problems of Africa, the people, the poverty, the ethnic violence, realizing I needed to talk in other parts of the world about the problems facing not just the chimpanzees and animals of Africa, but the people too. Learning about climate change, learning about pollution, learning about loss of species, and finding as I traveled more and more young people who seemed to have lost hope. And it was because I met these young people who said, well, we feel that you older generations have compromised our future and there's nothing we can do about it. And, you know, of course we've compromised their future. You've got two little girls here, your twins, Stella and Grace, and somewhere out here, I think, and wonderful, lovely little girls. And I've got a grandson. My youngest grandson is 10. My sister has 2 grandsons. And yes, we've harmed the world horribly since I was that age, even since you were that age. But it's not true, sorry, it's not true that there's nothing we can do about it. And that's how Roots and Shoots was born. So why am I traveling like this? Because there are so many places to go. So many people want hope. I think my job is to try and bring hope when things, Lauren talked about that. She talked about suddenly being inspired and having hope that she could make a difference. And it's the young people like Lauren, it's the teachers, and several of them here tonight. And I just, you know, and people like you too, because you could just do your stuff and not care 2 hoots about the planet. There are plenty. You could just be into drugs and You're not. You're a father. Responsible, but I don't think you are.
Well, no, certainly not all the time.
Anyway, so, you know, I get inspired by the people I meet, by the fact that, yes, there are millions of problems, but I haven't met a problem where there wasn't a group of passionate people trying to put it right. And these young people with their enthusiasm.
This is what I've wondered, and this could be for both of you, but I mean, Jane, with all of your amazing talents, your unbelievable ability to observe and decipher chimp behavior, and ability to touch people's lives, what talent that you don't have do you wish you had?
I would love to be able to draw and paint. I imagine things in my head. I watch the chimpanzees. I would love to be able to capture on paper some of what they do, some of the trees, some of the beauty of the forest, some of the imaginings I've had. I can't. Do you have a talent that you wish you had? I mean, is there a talent you wish you had?
I think I envy my father was a physicist and a lot of scientists. And I don't know why I have this hierarchy in my head, but in my mind, sort of science and philosophy are sort of the way to discover the answers and the way to save ourselves. Not always used that way, but that's the way I think in my mind. That's the greatest endeavor, research, discovery. And and then I think creative things come just behind it. So I always told my, so then I always am like, well, I could have been a scientist if I was disciplined. But I think that's if I had to focus, I loved science in school, and then I kind of fell off and played music for different reasons, Jane. But I like to draw a lot, but I do wish maybe I pursued sciences a little more so I could speak from a place of knowledge rather than just a place of guessing.
What about you, Bill?
What was the question? Wow, I didn't know I was going to get any of these questions. Exactly what yours is to draw. I sit in Gombe and I see these amazing things, and I have my little notepad and piece of paper, and I really do my best to try to capture what just happened in front of me, whether it's a snake or a leaf or the backlight of the beautiful trees above. And it looks like a 5th grader drew it with a broken hand. It's so embarrassing that I kind of scribbled it all out so that if anybody ever grabs my field notebook someday, they won't know how hopeless I was.
Well, Bill, if you try to capture the light coming through the trees with a pencil and paper, good luck.
There are people who can do that, but I think that's why I picked up a camera, is so that I could capture those things that I see. But I would love to be able to draw as well. I'd like to be able to sing, too.
Me too. That's okay. We can always dream.
We could. You want to do another one? Should I find one?
Find one. It's so much easier.
The strangest thing you've ever signed, Jane. You've signed 1 million autographs in 1 million places.
Well, okay, here's your job, David. You choose which you think is the funniest of this list that I'm going to say. I've signed a goat's horn, a dog's collar, the dashboard of a car, a kitchen table, a bed in one of our co-chairs' houses that I lay on that broke, and he made me sign it. I wasn't with Dave in a bathtub, I was in a bed by myself, broke in the middle of the night. I've signed a forehead, I've signed fingers, I've signed socks, I've signed shirts, I've signed a rather overweight gentleman's belly.
Thank goodness it was his belly. But I wanted to know, was the horn of the goat still attached to the goat? Oh, good. It would have been morbid otherwise. A little bit morbid. Yes.
It's attached to the goat.
Oh, good. It is a strange one. I've never had that honor of signing a goat.
Have you had to sign fun things?
I've signed some fun things.
All right. It's your list.
I've signed some bellies, and some much lower backs, and but not too much lower, and some low necks. I always, when I'm signing below the neck, or I used to, doesn't happen to me as much anymore. As I go gray, it happens less and less. But I felt it was appropriate to and I don't know why, but was to hold the pen very far up. So it made them as sort of strangely uncomfortable as it did me. That was kind of a funny ploy. Let me get that for you, and then hold it way back. But I've signed, I've signed a lot of guitars. That's boring. And I don't think I have as
Probably
many.
soccer balls and golf balls.
Yeah, baseballs.
Baseballs,
in the
yes,
sweet
I've done
spot.
those.
I always make. You sign baseballs. Yeah.
And I've signed a guitar as well,
Yeah.
actually.
Did you sign one at Live Earth? There was probably a lot lined up.
I think I did.
Yeah,
Yes, I think I did.
Somebody was.
Oh, I signed one of my lovely things was a Native American drum, and it was a very old sacred one, and I couldn't believe that he asked me to sign it. That was very special. Very special. Okay.
Yes?
What?
You can
Do
clap.
that again. The three red lights that just got flashed, which means
We should shut
very,
her.
very sadly, we have to wrap up. I had so many good questions, but maybe another time we'll have to do this.
But I have to say, do you remember Mr. H?
Of course, I remember when Mr. H, we bring him everywhere. I remember when there was a time I did a show in DC with Jane and my noisy audience. But I did love that you left Mr. H at the front of the stage with this raucous crowd. And a couple of people picked him up, but there he was. He did get lifted and looked at. But no one took him away. I like that. You can't steal from Jane Goodall. She's immune to
You know, there was a time when we were in Times Square in the Time Life building, having an event up at the top. And it was time to go home, and you know, we had press and all kinds of things there, and I couldn't find Mr. H. Everyone was looking, the waiters were looking. One of our people went down to one of these great big LAPD guys at the bottom, not LA, New York police people down. Have you seen a toy monkey? A toy monkey? You've got to be joking, this guy, you know, with his... It was Jane Goodall's toy monkey. Jane Goodall's toy monkey. Give us a moment. Check the surveillance cameras, and there was this woman with a media thing around her neck, and you see her, she's looking around, standing beside Mr. H. She picks him up, she pops him in the bag and zips it in. And they got her, just like that.
That is forever. That's the moment in her life. See, why do I sympathize? But I tell you, for the rest of her life, every time she's... That's a I wish I didn't. That's you know, that's much worse than leaving your fly down. That is awful. Shame on her. So much for not stealing from Jane Goodall. Dr. Jane, or whatever. I was so freaked out. You know, I love you so much, but it's hard to do it in front of people. You got a sense of everything. And thank you, Jane, so much. That's very nice of you. It's great to meet you.
We have to thank our sponsors. It's been a great evening. Dave, unbelievable. Thank you so much. A better place for animals, people, and the environment. Thanks so much. Love you, Jane.